Hi, this is Felipe Osaro, and welcome to Second Earth Alternative. What an episode we have today. We're going to be discussing a topic that has been long overdue in this channel, a horrific phenomenon, oftentimes overlooked by academics. A scene so nightmarish that few people who actually experience it come out talking about it in the end. I'm talking about the alien abduction phenomenon. But before we start, I want to tell you about a new segment we're going to have. And it's going to be something that I'm going to be introducing in the upcoming episodes. The only catch with this is that it's going to require you guys' participation. From now on, in every episode, I'm going to have an envelope with a picture inside. And I want people to kind of do their own remote viewing session and actually attempt to view what they think is underneath the envelope. Now, if you think you have a good guess, please comment below with the capital letters RV : and then your predictions. Now, it can be anything. It can be something that's alive, dead. It can be some kind of scenery, objects, people, historical locations, etc. So it's going to be your job to attempt to figure out what those details are. Now, I highly recommend Googling how to remote view if you've never done this before. Now, if by miracle someone actually gets this right, I'll give it big ceremonial shout out, and hopefully in time we can actually include prizes. So if you want to participate, I will provide the envelope with its associated numbers at the end of the episode. So getting back to alien abductions, I want to begin by highlighting how touchy the topic of alien abductions really is. Instantly, when you think about the terms alien abductions, all kinds of thoughts evoke, emotional feelings, visual nightmare scenes of these bug-looking creatures doing sexual experimentation. Now, I don't use the adjective sexual to make people unduly scared or to garner some kind of giggles. I'm saying this because sexual humiliating experiments is one of the most common attributes regarding alien abductions, which, facing such humiliating circumstances, it doesn't really help that when describing the scenario, one must succumb to the realization that these are creatures from outer space that are doing this, or maybe robots, depending if it's like those small grays. So of course, from an outside perspective, it can seem like something that's very difficult to accept. For a skeptic to accept these ideas, their entire paradigm of existence on this planet Earth would have to be shattered by this realization that we're not the top predators that have access to this planet. And if the top predators, the supposed aliens, are being secret and actually exist, then our entire home planet is like, it's almost like a rat cage of experimentation, which includes sexual humiliation. So I doubt skeptics want to go to bed thinking about that possibility. But that's actually what's possibly happening to so many poor people that have little support in experiencing these traumatic events. Here's the president of the Skeptical Society, Michael Shermer, discussing what he believes regarding aliens.
Greeting Earthlings, I am Zlatu from the planet Vega. I have come to Earth to warn you of the disastrous environmental destruction you are currently undertaking, especially global warming. Because I didn't think anybody would believe in aliens, we came to the place least likely to accept the existence of extraterrestrial intelligences. We came to the offices of the Skeptic Society and Skeptic Magazine. If we can convince them, then we can convince anybody.
Well, as you can imagine, we would be very surprised if ET showed up at our offices. But I would be even more surprised if extraterrestrials looked anything like this. Why is it that the aliens always seem to look like, well, us, our favorite species? They always seem to look like a bipedal primate. Well, if you think about it for just a second, that can't be. There is no way that aliens, if we ever do encounter them, are going to be bipedal primates, let alone look just like us, except with some gnarly stuff on our forehead, and maybe they speak English with an Indian accent. In fact, if you think about it for a second, only one species in the history of life on Earth, of the hundreds and hundreds of millions of species, only one has become a bipedal primate. The chances of that happening anywhere else in our solar system, in the galaxy, and in the cosmos is virtually zero. Whatever the aliens will look like, they won't look like this.
Alright, so this logic by Mr. Shermer shocked me a little bit because Having studied psychology in depth, I can tell you that the most energy-consuming organ in our bodies is our brain. In fact, the brain takes up almost 25% of the total human body's circulatory needs, yet it only weighs 2% of the total body mass. Also, being upright, something that Mr. Shermer may or may not be aware of, is actually the most efficient way of allowing the blood to be both consumed and cooled at the same time by our brain. So if we were to be on all our fours, for example, we would overheat very fast because our extremities would not be as functional when it's not being upright in terms of cooling the blood from this furnace of a brain that we have. So being upright is almost like a necessity for being smart on land, or at least in this planet. So yeah, I kind of expect that if we're the smartest known beings on Earth, that we would expect to be the most upright of all creatures. Now that can't be used as an argument for statistics when we are a statistical anomaly in this planet itself, and what we're actually attempting to discuss would have to be a statistical anomaly on their home planet if they want an efficient circulatory system that feeds a big brain. It's as if he has never heard of the concept of convergent evolution, that animals completely unrelated to each other, like a dolphin and a shark, can actually resemble each other if they are in similar environments. Now, I would expect that any biological unit living in a warm, mid-gravity, land-based environment that is at least as smart as us would likely have to be upright due to the basic circulatory needs, not to mention the needs of allowing our appendages to be free to create tools. So, Michael Shermer, what are you talking about? But let me ask a question. How did a skeptic go against basic biological principles in making his argument against aliens? Well, if I were to play psychologist just for make-believe, I would venture a guess that accepting aliens is so detrimental to Michael Shermer's life, his perspectives, his career academic achievements, the perspective of his peers, etc., that he would rather make a fallacious argument than honestly examine what is going on with this alien phenomenon and the alien abductions. But the truth is, if alien abductions are real, then we have a much bigger issue than preserving the egos of these skeptics. Now, going back to the alien abduction for a second, I wanted to ask, is alien abduction really that hard to conceptualize? I would say on the periphery, yeah, it's, when you think about people being taken up in the wake of night and you hear about these accounts of aliens going through walls like ghosts, it does kind of sound implausible from the outside. However, the deeper you actually delve into the subject, the more these weird details actually start to make sense. For example, when random people were taken and placed in a suspended state of make-believe to attempt to mirror this alien abduction experiments, something strange happened. Hardly any participating people in the experiment would describe a sexually humiliating encounter. However, in reality, of the thousands if not millions of actual purported alien abduction cases, sexual abuse through experimentation or extraction, it's actually one of the most reported claims in alien abductions. And when you examine the details of what these individuals describe, it's actually rather shocking how similar some of these accounts can be from each other. And it's not like the entire academic community didn't notice this. I mean, John E. Mack, a Harvard psychiatrist and Pulitzer Prize-winning biographer, well, he basically placed his entire career on the line when he attempted to study alien abduction cases. At first, he was after a mysterious mental pathology that he thought could explain all these abduction cases. To the detriment of his peers, however, Dr. Mack found no such pathologies. Perfectly normal people of all walks of lives were all giving similar accounts: missing time, these weird bug-eyed anthropomorphic people, sexual experimentations, inexplicable body scars, as well as items in clothes accidentally being placed backwards or incorrectly. Now, there's no fame to be gained, and frankly, there's only embarrassment and ridicule as a possible future for these people. Yet, hundreds of them bravely are coming forward with their accounts in the pursuit of truth. And after interviewing hundreds of people, Dr. Mack had no other explanation other than these people were telling the truth. Now, how can such a prominent psychiatrist come to such a crazy conclusion while the entire academic community hide their heads in the sand like ostriches? Isn't science supposed to be about the pursuit of truth? Yet, when confronted with the most important truths Of all of them, the fact that we might be abducted, scientists, instead of investigating, choose to hide behind their calculations. Though Dr. Mack believed the abductees were telling the truth, he seemed more inclined to believe in the possibility that these experiences were incongruent to the visionary quest Native people undergo in present and past, meaning he actually believes that these things could have some kind of singular hallucinatory association that might have happened with ancient people. The one thing that Dr. Mack did not do, though, in this topic was unite the idea of vision quests with aliens. So maybe it's time to jump a little bit deeper into this rabbit hole. Strange as this may sound, when you really delve deep into the subject of vision quests, I think it's really difficult to ascertain if what these people are experiencing is actually a fictitious reality or a real reality interpreted in a fictitious way. I know it's a little mind-bending, but what I mean is that everybody is going to have their own personal visions when hallucinating, whether through spirituality or mushrooms, etc. But that doesn't mean that whatever produces that vision is not some kind of objective reality that can be perceived by multiple agents. Now, I always believe that it's very difficult to separate alien abductions with spirituality only because the very mechanisms to which alien abductions often happen has spiritual undertones. I mean, think about it. The aliens apparently can go through walls like ghosts. They defy the laws of physics and they beam you up into a light like you're Jesus Christ or something, hovering to the air. Okay, to make this point more clear, why don't we take a look at this movie clip by Seth Rogen, and I want you to tell me if this is a religious scene or an alien invasion scene.
What do you mean, why not?
I don't know why not!
Take my hand!
Okay, take me with you, Jay!
I'll take you with me!
Ah!
Yay!
Ah!
Yeah! It's working! Yeah!
The answer is that in this case, it's actually a religious scene from the movie This Is the End. It's a very funny movie, by the way. But you see, the parallels, it's kind of difficult to tell, right? And also, historically, when you examine certain pieces of art, it's really difficult to interpret if what I'm seeing is some kind of religious scene or some kind of alien abduction. So in other words, it's very difficult to separate the two ideas, especially when you hear about people who are taking mushrooms and apparently talking to intellectual entities. This may be hard to imagine, but I think the fabric of the universe, in terms of having solid, rigid objects that you and I can feel or touch physically, like a wall, this concept of rigidity, it might actually necessitate on the existence of parallel universes. And to add to that, we actually have quantum computers that can calculate faster than any other supercomputer because it's using multiple calculations at the same time while utilizing parallel universes. So if we apparently have no issues utilizing parallel universes for our technological needs, why would we think it's not possible with alien abductions? To clarify this point further, let's listen into Oxford physicist David Deutsch.
In fact, we know from the theory that practically all of our everyday experience is conditioned by multi-universe interactions. For example, matter couldn't be solid if each atom only took one path. What keeps it solid is the interactions between different instances of the same atom in different universes. That is what makes for rigidity. It's also for what makes permanent magnets. It's also the reason that we can have amplification of signals. It's the reason that we can see stars.
I lied to you, and that quantum theory is not a theory of microscopic objects. It's not a theory of small things. It's actually a theory of isolated things. And it's because it's possible to isolate something small like an atom from its surroundings that it behaves in this bizarre manner. But in principle, if we could isolate Fred from his surroundings, at the moment there are air molecules bouncing off him, there's photons of light bouncing off. If we could put him in a vacuum chamber, and we could
do it all the time.
Yeah, and we could completely isolate him from his surroundings, he would behave like a quantum object. He would be able to go through two doors simultaneously and do all these incredible things. And that's, of course, that's what a quantum computer is. I mean, it's an attempt to build something big that is quantum, to exploit the ability of an atom to be in many places at once, to do many calculations at once.
Wait a second. If entire units can behave like quantum particles, then shouldn't it be possible for a future society with a higher technology than us to get entire bodies to go through objects like walls that is described so consistently in alien abduction cases, but is also used so feverishly by skeptics as evidence for the ridiculousness of alien abductions? You see, it's not the reports that are ridiculous. It's the skeptics' short-sightedness and lack of understanding of our future technologies that is ridiculous to me. Going back to Dr. Mack's interpretation of abductions possibly being these visionary quest experiences, I should also add that there's an interesting hypothesis that this entire universe is possibly existing in a simulated reality. Let's hear what Elon Musk has to say about this.
There's a sort of a philosophic concept that a sufficiently advanced civilization will be able to create a simulation. Yeah, maybe you've answered this before? A simulation.
I've had so many simulation discussions, it's crazy.
Okay. Any sufficiently advanced civilization could create a simulation that's like our existence. And so the theory follows that maybe we're in the simulation. Have you thought about this?
A lot. So given that we're clearly on a trajectory to have games that are indistinguishable from reality, and those games could be played on any set-top box or on a PC or whatever, and there would probably be, billions of such, computers or set-top boxes, it would seem to follow that the odds that we're in base reality is 1 in billions.
Like a virtual reality system eventually becoming indistinguishable from our own reality, I believe the concept of a soul inhabiting a body could be just as likely a technological consequence to a future society we have no history of. Something as religious as this sounds was created by a higher force. How do we know that our souls don't just get sucked into some kind of technological device, possibly in the center of the moon, and then gets retransferred back into another body after death? Look, I'm not saying that that's how things work, but we have to be a little bit open because we have so little information. It's really tough to conclude anything regarding what is spiritual and what is technological given our lack of knowledge. But the main point is to be observant to all possibilities. We will soon create virtual reality systems that will easily surpass our threshold for visual reality, meaning we won't be able to visually differentiate reality from a virtual world. We have already mapped out every neuron of a real worm, and we have transferred this information to a virtual system, allowing a virtual worm to exist as an actual worm that exists on Earth, but in this case it's existing in the program we created. This is happening right now. So where does spirituality unite with technology? I have no problem uniting spiritual vision quests and alien abductions while still believing both to be true. They could be triggering similar mechanisms such as parallel universes. Now, I don't have all the answers, but definitely individuals like Michael Shermer don't either. In fact, I would say his logic regarding aliens is a little Though what I can conclude is that there's nothing ridiculous about what abductees claim. Think about it. Whether from our own experimentation or for the benefit of another species, how many times has humans studied another animal species in depth without at one point or another actually abducting the animal itself to extract its semen or eggs? You see, I would say very, very rarely that happens. All right, guys. So this is only the first part of the episode. I wanted to make a part 2 that goes a little bit more in depth with the alien abduction experiences and the similarities between the people's accounts. Now, I've had a few brave souls who have actually been willing to email me personally discussing their experiences. And I wanted to encourage people to feel safe here at Second Earth and to allow each other to form a community of like-minded individuals. This is a highly intellectual group of subscribers with only 1.7% of the people coming under the age of 17. That's not a joke. The people who watch this show have life experiences and they also have similar mysterious experiences to one another, and in that way, we're not really alone. So if anybody would like to share their stories anonymously, I would be honored to take in your accounts for the next episode and possibly create our own communal consensus as to what is really happening. Feel free to email me at eafiles.contact@gmail.com. Now, as promised, the envelope with the picture. Now, I'm going to reveal what's inside the envelope in the next episode. So don't forget to send me your guesses, or not guesses if you're remote viewing experts. But the number 8164 is attached to both the picture and the envelope. So that's it, guys. Thanks for joining me once again. I know it was a long episode, but it's actually a very, very important topic to discuss. So don't forget to join me for part 2, coming soon. This is Felipe Osorio, signing out.